It's a national security must. It's a keystone country for the region.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Young.
Assistant Secretary, I want to ask you a few questions about China basing in the Gulf region. Last year, there were reports, well publicized, that China was constructing military basing infrastructure at a port site in the UAE. What is, for starters, the status of that project, please?
So this is an issue that I would love to come back to in a classified setting. What I will say is Beijing has made clear that it has a global plan for a global set of military installations. Obviously, Djibouti was its first such installation. We are keeping a very close eye on this, not only in the UAE, but elsewhere. This is a kind of issue where we're very clear with our partners that, economic relationships are one thing, buying defense articles is another thing, but they will quickly run up against the bilateral defense relationship itself,
right,
in a certain direction.
Well, good. It seems like a pretty direct message, and I think it's the one that needs to be sent. Has the administration received assurances from the UAE authorities that they've ordered China to permanently halt the port-based construction?
So all I can say in the setting is that we're making headway on our discussion. But I will be happy to come back and brief you in detail.
Sure. What about civilian Chinese infrastructure projects in the UAE and the broader Gulf region? Do you have concerns that those could be cover for Chinese military and security services presence across the region?
Yes.
If you could speak to that.
Yes, I do. In the sense that, as I said earlier, these whether it's a part or in whole, purchase, investment, et cetera, it offers an inroad, and by Chinese law, must offer potential use by Chinese intelligence and military.
Are there particular projects that you could point to that are especially concerning or that you're eyeballing?
Not for the moment.
Okay.
Not for the moment.
The Wall Street Journal recently reported that China sought to establish a military presence along the African coast. In Equatorial Guinea, for example, the effort was only rebuffed at the urging of U.S. officials. Given its Atlantic coast and its role as both a geographic and economic gateway to both European and African markets, do you anticipate attempts from Beijing to do the same in Morocco?
We're watching all of these locations very closely, and we are engaging with governments. As far as Equatorial Guinea, we made very clear to the government that certain potential steps would raise national security concerns, and that's the kind of dialogue we are ready to jump into with any of these countries.
Okay. I've got about 80 seconds left, and I'm going to stay under the time threshold here. But every plebe at the Naval Academy, one of the first things you learn are the various choke points around the world, right? And the Suez Canal for generations has been really vital to our national security and economic security, and that of so many others. Events there in 2021 illustrate that it can also be an Achilles heel, right? In the event of a serious disruption, like we've recently seen to the Suez Canal, what other fail-safes exist to mitigate risk to the global supply chain?
Okay, I'm going to have to take that one back for some scrutiny, because if you're talking about, blockage of the Suez Canal, I mean, obviously the Department of Defense has many tools at its disposal. In fact, the department and others were involved in unblocking the canal.
Yeah.
But I'm...
I bring it up in this context because it's important to China's trade